Okay, first we have to change the captions. What just happened? No. No. Do. Oh, I see what happened. Okay. You know, you really got to give me a chance here. There we go. Give us a chance, precious. Is that copy? No. Cancel. Okay. Can I just copy? Copy here. Oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. Add. Okay, and then no, that's not what I meant to do. But we can just. Okay, I think I have that in order. And I believe that we're ready to begin, friends. I am not Jennifer Rose, intuitive psychic, and I don't know how to change that. But if you've been watching a while, you know who I am. Now, how do I see the chat? Hi, Kate. Hi, Parker. Hello, wise queer tarot. Hello, friends. I'm so happy to be here with you. Happy Wednesday. Okay, so it's 10 o'clock, and I'm just going to go ahead and get into this. The whole idea here is for me not to zip through the astrology today so much as to, sit here and talk with you about it a little bit. If you address me in the chat, I will try to see that and respond. I don't know how carried away I will get away with reading or just talking about what I'm talking about, but I will keep an eye on the chat. I do not have a keyboard in front of me right now, so my responses will all be right here in the live. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I am not Jennifer Rose. I am Melanie Rose, but Jennifer is my wife, and I would be happily identified as her in a lineup, although we don't really look very much the same. Okay. Welcome to Astrology Today. Greetings, fellow Earthlings. I'm so happy that you could join me. Today is Wednesday, May 21, 25. And, I just want to say, like I usually do, that we investigate astrology and we look into astrology because it is a really ancient way that we have of looking to the stars to give us clues and hints about what might be happening for us right here on Earth in our very own lives. And if we can get those hints and clues, if they can give us some sort of informational advantage in how to navigate our own lives with more success and peace and prosperity, then so be it, right? All the information I can get is what I use to try to navigate my complicated adult life in the 21st century. And I'm so happy that you're here with me on that journey, hopefully making good use of the signs and omens, making good use of the information that I provide, and hopefully of the interpretation that I provide as well. I hope that it is helpful for you. So thank you so much for being here. Wednesday, May 21, 2025. And, we're in the middle of the week here, and I'm pretty much just going to talk about the whole week, but we'll start with today, okay? The sun is in Gemini and the moon is in Pisces. So I've got some notes I'm going to refer to. You'll see me looking off, but I'm still right here with you. Who do I have here? Okay. Hi, Wise Queer Tarot. Are you I? Yes, I am you, Dorian Gray. Okay, so the sun is in Gemini and the moon is in Pisces. We've shifted in the past couple of days from this Taurus, Earth, and Aquarius air vibe over to the Gemini air and Pisces water vibe, but also from two fixed signs, sun and moon, to two mutable signs. And all of that is just to say that a week that was already about maintaining a pace and leaning into your strengths. When it began, that's what this week was about. Now it is also about describing what it was like to do that work and giving ourselves a chance to rest and process it for a couple of days. Okay, so we can find out how we really feel about the effort that we have put in so far, right? For our goals and security, for our goals for security and progress. So, I just want to say that it has been, Sun and Taurus is about maintaining a pace and leaning into your strengths, and, making that sort of plodding progress where you can maintain, the effort that you're putting in to get the goods out of it that you want to get, right? But now that the sun is in Gemini, we're going to have a conversation about that experience, the work that we've done, and we're going to be planning our way forward, based on what we've experienced so far. Now, the sun is really a mover and a shaker this week, my friends. So we're going to talk about that. The sun moved into Gemini yesterday afternoon for us here in Kansas City, Missouri, beautiful Kansas City, Missouri. And with that comes a shift in our outer life focus from personal supply and security to what we have to express. This is the month when we're called to articulate our vision, okay, for our work, social, and civic lives, that outer facing life that you have, and speak up for what you believe is the right course of action. And this means engaging in partnership with others, sharing our plans, receiving valid input, and finding creative ways to let the world know what you're about. So I really focus, allow that shift to happen, allow yourself to feel that shift from, yes, we're still focused on getting the work done and being able to create the benefits from it that we need. But we can now also turn our focus to, sharing our plans, collaborating with others, getting input, letting everybody know what we're doing, okay? As we say at home, what's on the agenda, Jennifer Rose? In the coming weeks, you're going to spell it out for us, okay? Your partners in manifestation, all of us, so we can be enrolled in your personal plan for global domination. And I'm going to start rephrasing that somehow. I don't know what I want to say about global domination, except that I'm trying to get away in my own mind from a model of domination in any kind of way, because part of the shift that we're making is this shift from power over to power with. Okay. And it's going to be a necessary shift from power over to power with, because there's just so many of us. Okay. We're going to have to be able to work together. We're going to have to be able to empower one another to make things happen on a larger scale. With that said, yesterday, the sun in Taurus had a pleasant and productive conversation with Saturn in Pisces. And that's a vibration. Wait, what do we see? Why is Queer Tarot? Black Hole Bakery is my plan for global domination. Y'all, if you are in Kansas City or if you visit Kansas City, please go down to Black Hole Bakery. You can look it up on the Googs, or on a search engine of your choice. But Black Hole Bakery is just a beautiful shining star here in Kansas City. They have a huge variety of bakery items for your choices, but the thing that we find the most scrumptious there is the mochi donuts. Okay, so these are donuts made from mochi, which is rice dough, and so they're lower glycemic index for those of us who are watching our sugar. They do come sort of coated in some sugar, so there is, it's not completely without its sweetness, but the mochi is so good. It is chewy and doughy and just perfect. So Black Hole Bakery, y'all, not sponsoring our show, but we are sponsoring them for sure. Yes. Okay. So the sun in Taurus having this pleasant and productive conversation with Saturn in Pisces. This is a vibration that might shine a light on how to proceed in practical terms from wherever you are in your work, social, and civic life. Okay. So, taking a look at your work life, taking a look at, who it is that you're socializing, who your friends are, what you're doing with them, what you're doing civically. There's not just voting. There's there's standing up and speaking out. There's a lot of protest going on right now. Jennifer and I will be heading down to the Stop the Bleed protest here in Kansas City tomorrow. So, yes, if you're going to be here, come out for that. But also, I just want to say, take a look at that part of your life, that part where you are out among other people, where your little world bumps into the worlds of other people. Okay. The goal is for us to have success. And that means like knowing what our intentions when we walk into the situation. But, however you define success, what Saturn points out is the cost that you must pay, right, to be the boss, which can feel intimidating or like a burden sometimes, at least to me. But there are many things that are hard to do, but which are absolutely worth doing. And that's not a very catchy catchphrase, but it's one of mine. So no one said this was supposed to be easy. And the Sun-Saturn conversation, to me, it sounds a little bit like it's a pep talk, sort of encouraging us to level up and put some skin in the game, all right? So, yeah, that's the Sun and Saturn conversation. It's very optimistic. It is very also pointed at our sense of responsibility and our sense of, what it's going to take to get and maintain the security and stability and resources that we want. Okay, so that's a very practical conversation. Tomorrow, the Sun in Gemini will have another pleasant and productive conversation, and this time with Neptune in Aries. So this is a conversation about our spiritual or creative sense of purpose in the world. Neptune in Aries brings out the fight for our high ideals, okay? Sun in Gemini encourages us to articulate those ideals in ways that are meant to inspire progress. This air-fire conversation is very representative of the energies we are making our way toward in the bigger shift of several outer planets this year and next year, out of water and earth signs and into air and fire signs. This time next year, we will all see a lot more of our plans and other people's plans being put into action. But what I want to say is, when you're tuning into the astrology gurus at this time, and I call them my gurus, the people who report astrology on YouTube like I do. I love to listen to Nadia Shah. I love to listen to Chani Nicholas. I love to listen to Anne Ortley. I love to listen to Michael A. Bryan. And the thing I wanted to say about that, in ways that are meant to inspire progress. The thing I want to mention about that is that I listen to these people because they inspire me to not just to talk about astrology and think about astrology, but to talk and think, at least be in conversation with myself, about the things that I'm experienced, to be honest with myself about how I feel and what it is that I'm going through. That's a really positive, but really important thing for somebody like me who learned very young just to tune out when things seem bad. I just sort of, if you've got a fight, flight, or freeze, when things go wrong, I tend to just sort of freeze. I kind of I become the bunny in the grass. And I'm just going to sit there very quietly and hope nobody notices me. Right. But, we've got to articulate, we've got to check in with ourselves. We've got to look inside and say, okay, this situation isn't ideal. I don't feel good about this. And that's one thing we have to be able to articulate, like how I feel about things. But then the other thing that we have to articulate about that is like when I'm dissatisfied with something, when I'm dissatisfied with something, then that's showing me what would be ideal. That's showing me really what I want from the situation. And maybe I went into a situation not really knowing what I wanted. I often do. I am an Aries. I just kind of blunder forward. So sometimes I walk into a situation not knowing what I want from it, just thinking, okay, this will be an interesting experience. And then when I don't get what I wanted, that's when I find out what I want. It's like flipping the coin. Okay. So, because when you flip the coin, you find out, oh, did I get what I wanted? I don't think I did. Sometimes that's what you find out. Okay. So, when we figure out, okay, I'm dissatisfied with this, and then that points me to my ideal. Now, the sun is in Gemini, and especially when it comes to your work, social, and civic life, so what you're not satisfied with in that area of your life, it's time to say, what would be ideal for me? This is what would be ideal. I had a conversation with my brother yesterday, and that's what I said. I was like, this is how I feel, and this is what would be ideal for me. And it was really easy for him to support me in that. So, you know, think of that as an approach that you can take. Just, you know, like I don't have to make any sort of oh, I don't know. I lost my thought there. Anyway, so this air and fire combination that we're experiencing, which is the Sun and Gemini, and it's in a conversation with Neptune and Aries. They're joined up in the sky. Okay, they're not joined up in the sky. They're sextile to one another. It's a cooperative conversation, and this air and fire conversation, it's very representative of the energies we are making our way toward in the bigger shift of several outer planets this year. I already read that to you. Okay. But that's not all that the sun has going on this week. This Saturday, there'll be a trine to Pluto and grace between our public facing lives and fundamental change. Okay. And we'll talk about that some more on Friday. But part of what we're doing is we're bringing our focus to that work, social, and civic life and what it is that we're not satisfied with, because change is inevitable. Okay. And there will be a trine to Pluto, and maybe just in being able to identify what it is that we would like to see go better, you know, having a moment of grace with Pluto will allow us to make that change with ease, allow us to release something, or you know, make it easy when we discover something to just go, oh, well, then that makes this simple, and I'm just going to go through this change. No big deal. All right, so let's move on to the moon. How's everybody doing there? I can't see the chat, or I can see the chat. Okay, I think I can see the chat. Again, hello. I am Jennifer. I'm not Jennifer Rose. I am Melanie Rose, and I am live here to share with you the week's astrology. Today is Wednesday, the 21st, and we just went over basically what the sun's doing this week. Now we're going to move on to the moon. The moon in Pisces today is a clairvoyant moon. Okay. When I think of the Pisces symbol of two fish, I think of how when we see fish, we're looking through water. Symbolically, it's like seeing the things that are in motion around you through a lens of emotional or intuitive information. All right. Sort of like the air is thick with how we're feeling about it. Hello, Night Owl. Thank you for joining us. Okay. And, you know, so symbolically, looking at things through that emotional and intuitive information, Saturn is also in Pisces, swimming in those waters, lingering heavily around the final degrees of that sign where it has a lot of power. And it's really lingering around the North Node as well, which also amplifies these Saturnian vibes. Okay, so it's really, Saturn is really trying to bring out the best of us right now in terms of compassion and engagement and accountability where it concerns our foundations and greater goals for security, right? So Saturn in Pisces and really doing its job. Listen, Saturn in Pisces has been a long lesson in how things fall apart. Saturn in Pisces began 3 years ago with that submarine incident where those people were going down to see the Titanic and their submarine imploded. And what a terrible tragedy is to have lost those lives in that way. I can't imagine like losing my family that way, but seriously, Saturn has been showing us the way things, like literal things, fall apart. It's been showing us a lot of destruction in terms of like the war and conflicts that have been going on for the past 3 years. And it's been showing us a lot of destruction in terms of just what the earth has for us, what the climate has for us. Earthquakes are happening. You know, like out here in the Midwest in the summertime, it's sometimes hundreds of tornadoes in a day. If you're watching the Weather Chasers, they're out there almost every week, almost every night, sometimes chasing down tornadoes, tornadic weather. And you know, there have been floods and other devastating fires and stuff happening. And it hasn't just been the last 3 years, but it seems to have really intensified over the last 3 years. And Saturn is structure. It is the brick house, and Pisces is the ocean. So what happens when the ocean creeps up on the brick house? Eventually the brick house is going to dissolve, and it's going to become part of the sand and one with the ocean. That's what happens to Saturnian things in Pisces. So it might have felt like for the past few years, like Saturn has what do I want to say? Like everything you tried to build is just sort of like sand through your fingers, right? I don't know that I necessarily feel that way, but yeah, it was a strange period for Jennifer and I. We definitely, I guess, yeah, we had some stuff, like as far as our resources fall apart, and had to sort of scramble to get things back together. So that's very Saturn and Pisces, just sort of like breaking down what you thought you had, and having to rebuild it. So uh, Saturn in Pisces is the name of the game right now. And it's and in the final degrees, it's just those vibes are very heavy. North Node really amplifies sort of the best of Saturn vibes, though. Best of Saturn vibes being um, feeling good about carrying your responsibilities, and not taking responsibility for things that are not yours to take responsibility for, and like doing the work that is needed to keep a firm foundation under your feet. And so, that's what the North Node does to amplify Saturnian vibes. And that, does help us sort of give some of our best in terms of, not all of the security is actually made of stone or wood. Not all of our security is a house or a piece of land or some food to eat. Some of our security is about the way we uphold our fellow human beings, like I said, with compassion and engagement and accountability, and how we uphold ourselves with compassion and engagement and accountability. Those are, skills we have, or skills that we can develop, to just make ourselves, uh, easier to be with ourselves, and also make ourselves easier to be around with other people. And not just easier, but more cooperative, more collaborative, and therefore more capable of, achieving the bigger things that we want to achieve. First thing tomorrow, just checking the chat. How's everybody doing? First thing tomorrow, Venus in Aries achieves a state of grace with Mars in Leo. Okay, that's Venus trine Mars. Both of the archetypal lovers are in fire signs, giving off vibes of heated action, friends. And they will maintain this state of grace more or less through the 10th of June, at least. So, if you're in partnership with somebody, if you have an intimate relationship with somebody, and you're feeling the ardent desire to be, intimately engaged with that person, to get it on, but also just to get close and to enjoy one another, just to soak up the pleasure of being near your lover. This is a good time for it. It should happen very easily. It should feel very, very simple thing for the two of you to connect with one another, in any way. And in positive ways and in loving ways that show that kindness that we have, especially for somebody that we feel particularly close to, or that we particularly desire. So if you're feeling sexy or just fired up about romance and partnership, you'll not be alone. It's a beautiful time for bonding with that special someone in your life. And later tomorrow morning, the moon will move on into Aries. That's a great personal vibe, personal life vibe for making fresh starts and establishing boundaries when they're needed. And I just want to say, when we're talking about the moon, we're talking about, remember when I said we were talking about the sun, we were talking about our outer facing lives, that work, social, and civic lives. So when we're talking about the moon, we're talking about our personal lives, what happens to us in private, what our homes are like, what our relationships are like with the people that we keep that close to us. Okay, the people who are at home with us. That's of particular importance that we be comfortable in our home, that we feel, able to express ourselves in our home. And in with the moon moving into Aries, and that's tomorrow morning. That's a good time just to say, okay, I've been saying that I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to start doing this today. Okay. Anytime the moon is in Aries is a good time to make a start, especially on like a personal life goal. Like, okay, I just want to be able to walk a mile every other morning, for example. Okay. So, all right, today's the morning. I'm going to go walk a mile. That's moon in Aries. Yeah, and also Moon in Aries is good about establishing boundaries. So, it's a good time when the moon is in Aries to say, look, I know before I said I didn't mind taking you to the grocery store, and that I didn't need any gas money. This is just an example. I'm making this up out of thin air. So maybe I'm catching it from somebody around me. But, instead, I think I need you to give me $5 in gas money every time I take you to the grocery store. And I can really only do that once a week, right? So, like, we're going to have to maybe renegotiate some things, but we got to set a boundary. We got to say, this is how this has to go. Even if I said before we were going to do it differently, now I realize, why that structure was there, or why that structure should be there, or why I questioned whether that structure should be there. I realize why it's needed. And now we're going to have it. Okay. So that's moon in Aries as well. I'm going to start doing what I said I was going to start doing, and also I'm going to create boundaries in my personal life with the people that I keep close and with myself. Aries Nation, yeah, throw in the horns. Just won a lawsuit. Boundary setting. Yes, ma'am. Annette Walker, thank you for sharing that with us. Congratulations. What a big deal. Yeah, I can feel your excitement, your elation about this. That's wonderful. Okay, later this week, friends, in addition to that Sun and Pluto aspect, we have Mercury meeting up with Uranus. Okay. And then after Mercury meets up with Uranus, it's going to do that cooperative conversation with Saturn. So this is really like a repeat of last week with the Sun. Kind of. The Sun aspected Saturn, moved into Gemini, and then aspected Neptune. And this time, Mercury is aspecting Uranus and Saturn, and then moving on into Aries, and then aspecting Neptune. Okay, so that's what the process is going to be for these faster moving planets. They're going to go through those slower moving planets in that order. Only after Saturn moves into Aries. Later this week, in addition to the Sun-Pluto aspect, we have Mercury meeting up with Uranus, then cooperating with Saturn. But only after Saturn moves into Aries. Now, that is a serious and action-packed weekend, my friends, and we will discuss that here on Friday morning. I guess that's where my notes have left me hanging. Let me see if I have some Friday notes to share with you. Oh, yes, I do. I've been busier than a cucumber in a woman's prison. Oh, my goodness. What did they say on Orange is the New Black? I think it was the last episode, and I can't remember her name, but I love that actress with the wild red hair. And she said, anything can be a dildo if you're brave enough. I guess that's something you find out in prison. Luckily, I haven't had to find that out. Okay, so what's coming up this weekend? So that Sun and Pluto aspect, it's like a state of grace. Again, like Mars and Venus are doing that state of grace thing, which is very easy conversation, very easy, like really feeling one another. And that's the Sun and Pluto on Saturday, the 24th. It feels like a spotlight. It feels like something that has been hidden might be revealed. And even as though it might should have been obvious to us, but it wasn't. Whatever is turned over, having the sun in that position allows us to interpret and express what we find in ways that can inspire and motivate fundamental change. Second thing tomorrow, Mercury, not tomorrow, the second thing on Saturday, Mercury meets up in the sky with Uranus. We just had the sun in Uranus Cazimi a week ago, so that's going to feel like a further expression, perhaps some clarification of details that began to come out around that time. Lots of shocking stuff in the news right now, friends. Lots of shocking stuff. We need to send a huge rocket to Uranus. Well, aren't you just a funny one? Okay. Third thing on Saturday, Saturn moves into Aries. Okay, so that's a big thing that's happening this weekend. This weekend is so action-packed. Saturn moving into Aries is like the big thing of the week, though, after that 3-year transit in Pisces. And we already talked a lot about Saturn and Pisces. Saturn is now going to dip his toe into Aries. Expect to feel a new sense of motivation and clarity to build things that will last, okay? It's going to be another 36 years before Saturn gets back around to Pisces and things fall apart again. And, you can kind of expect that if you build something, if you built a house today, in 36 years, it's going to need some repair, okay? Or in 36 years, if it's in a floodplain, it might just need to be replaced somewhere further up the hill. So, with that said, whether it's in your relationships, your relationship with yourself, with other people, whether it be a business or a career or a home or a community, Saturn in Aries is the beginning of an approximate 36-year cycle of creating new approaches to foundation and structure and security. I probably just read that to you and then had to read it again. Okay, and then moving on into Sunday evening, Mercury is going to join the Sun and Jupiter in Gemini. Wherever Mercury goes, it is interpreting and expressing the vibration of that place. And when Mercury keeps company with other planets, it also takes on some of the messages, their messages to spread. And Mercury rules Gemini, so the messenger is going to be right at home on the mic and ready to broadcast, simply for the joy of sharing, because information, like sunlight, is free. Chiron sitting on Aries and Taurus makes them use projection to make others carry their burdens by war. Ooh, Timothy, that's quite an observation. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for your input. And then just about an hour later on Sunday, if we're still following the astrology, Mercury will have its first talk with Saturn in Aries in a few decades. And this is a conversation that might harken back to some much earlier times for us, 36 years. There's planning and collaboration involved in making a strong start. And that is the astrology, okay, for this entire week that I have just shared for you. I'm gonna repost this, I'm sure, at some point, or probably what will happen is that Jennifer will make some shorts from it and get some good information out there to you all. And they block the sun. What is blocking the sun? Mercury does vibrate with Uranus, though. Rider in black. Sometimes it vibrates in a state of grace, and other times it vibrates in a challenging way. Oh no, my friend, the sun is always shining. The sun is always shining. That's what it does. Stephanie, feel free to send us an email. Uh, you can find our email address in the description, and we'll set up a time to talk to you. Okay, friends, I think that I am done here for the day. I sure do appreciate you joining me. I always love the company in the chat, so thank you for being here. But I just appreciate everybody who showed up to watch, and those of you who will watch later. And I think it's going to be a beautiful day outside. I hope you can get out and enjoy it. I certainly plan to do so in the next few minutes. And again, I will be here again on Friday at 10 a.m. I believe at 10 a.m. I think this is the better time. I'll be here again on Friday. That will be a recorded one, just to give you that weekend update again, which is going to be important because, you know, that's a action-packed weekend, and we put it in at the end of this video. So I want to come back to it and just refresh us all. I need constant reminders. I can't just read it once and go on. Personally, I need to be reminded and reminded. I have to remind myself over and over again, like, what's going on in the astrology? Okay, that makes sense. You know, that makes sense in the context of what's happening now. So you know, I appreciate you all for giving me this platform to share the information I so desperately need to soak up myself. And I will catch you all in the next video. Mwah, mucho, mucho amor. Mwah. Much love, friends.